recording!
Woo!
Oh
Where's
my
all the
gosh.
guests? Are we supposed to like?
Welcome!
Melissa's hating this already.
Oh my gosh. All right, welcome. First ever Shrink Tank Live. We are mental health professionals who are here to talk about culture and things that are happening in the world. And why are we doing this?
I don't know. Why are we? We're doing this because we want to talk about pop culture and what's going on in our society,
But through a mental health lens.
mental health. So tell us a little bit. Do you want me to introduce you, or are you going to introduce yourself?
Ooh, you introduced me.
Okay. So this is Melissa Miller, Dr. Miller, as we call her around here, because she's all about her title.
Yes.
Not really.
Yeah.
Dr. Miller. Let me see if I can take a guess. I know you work with adolescent and young adult and adult women.
I love adults.
Okay. Adults, adolescent and adult, or just adults? Adolescent.
Adolescent.
All the way to adult.
Yep,
And you specialize in eating disorders.
that's right.
So anorexia nervosa, bulimia.
Mm-hmm. But the whole spectrum.
What else is there? I don't, help us understand.
Like
That's not my niche, obviously.
anywhere from super restrictive to binge eating, or
Okay.
any person who is struggling with their relationship with food and their body. That's me.
I'm struggling with my relationship with food. Not with my body, but with food. I think it's because my schedule has shifted right now, so I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, I'm going to the gym at night, and then when do I eat? Do I eat before or after? So, neither here nor there.
Hold on,
So-
guys. We're having some technical difficulties.
Oh no!
Well, good thing we didn't get into anything.
That's why.
So remember all that, do it again.
Damn, so we're starting from the
It
jump?
says we're live right here.
Wait, what?
No, we're not starting from the jump. Hold on. That's the whole point. This is live.
Please excuse that D word. It was really just darn is what I meant to say, guys.
So are we on?
Are we on?
Well, it shows that we're on, but
Is this thing on?
are we live?
Hello!
How's our one viewer doing over there?
We're hanging in there. It's me.
Please
we have
comment.
three watching.
Sweet.
Oh my gosh.
Please comment and let us know that you're here. We feel lonely.
Where's
All right.
everybody?
So that's me. I'm going to introduce you.
We're
That's
good.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
keep it rolling.
All right.
All right.
So this is Tarek Sluicy. Am I
You
pronouncing
pronounced
this?
it right.
Thank you.
More commonly known by all my clients as Tariq Slousy, but Tarek Sluicy is my name.
And you specialize in adolescent males.
And young adult. Adolescent, young adult. So middle school, high school, college.
Failure to launch.
Yep.
Anxiety, depression.
For sure.
Substance.
Some substance.
Some substance.
Not
what
substance
else?
abuse. Substance use and misuse, but not like full-on substance
Addiction.
abuse.
Okay.
Addiction, yep.
What am I missing?
Life transitions, that's kind of falls into all, like failure to launch, anxiety, all the transition stuff, whatever it is. Transition from middle school to college.
Yep.
All the things that come with transitioning.
I have to imagine. So when I think about talking about pop culture, I think that both of our worlds, that in our population, is like heavily influenced by pop culture, right?
Oh.
Like, so we kind of need to know what's going on in the world with social media, with music, with movies, with TV. And I love bringing it into sessions so that we can talk about like the implications or
For sure.
great conversations, which is kind of the point of this show, right?
Yep. The point of the show, in case you guys were not aware, is to kind of mold the pop culture and psychology. So that's what Shrink Tank is. So Shrink Tank, as you see back here, shrinktank.com. Plug. Please check us out. There's a lot going on there. So shrinktank.com, pop culture and psychology. So we got a couple of topics,
Yep.
right? Do you want to tell us what the topics that we're going to be exploring together
So
today?
we really want to talk about The Joker, the movie.
The movie The Joker.
We also really want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein and cancel culture.
Cancel. Yep. Obama was recently in the news about that, so we'll kind of jump into
Yep.
that. So
And I think they're all kind of intertwined. They have a common thread, so it's going to be a good discussion today.
Are you, is that like a little cliffhanger that they're
Yes,
going to have to see the? I was like,
foreshadowing.
I'm
Stay
curious.
tuned.
What's the connection? I want to see the connection there. Good stuff.
Well, let's start with The Joker.
Okay.
You saw it.
I did.
I did not.
The reason why I saw it, kind of going back to your point, I saw it this past week, so I'm a little bit behind. But I already wanted to watch it because I'm a big fan of the Batman series.
Yeah.
But what really pushed me to get on it sooner rather than later was a conversation I had with a couple of clients. One client came in, he said, I'm really interested in hearing your perspective as a mental health professional on this.
Yeah.
And then you heard the media kind of coverage around it.
Huge coverage.
For sure.
And what was interesting was there was so much coverage about the movie, but even more so about like the fear surrounding the movie
Exactly.
and the dangers that might come from going to watch this.
Exactly. And so I did a little bit more reading on that, and where that came from, where that stemmed from, is actually the Aurora shooting,
Yeah.
and that was actually during The Dark Knight, the movie The Dark Knight.
I didn't
so I
know
didn't make that
either.
connection. So people were trying. There's this whole subculture of the incels. I don't know if you're familiar with the incels.
Let's talk about that a little. I am just recently plugged into this, and it's fascinating.
For sure.
So tell us what incel means.
Incels are this subgroup of individuals. There's all these groups. That's the thing I'm realizing in today's society. It wasn't in my day and time, and definitely not in yours.
Because I'm way older than Derek.
We got a little band in the back, just like a little late night show. So incels are these individuals that claim to be involuntarily celibate. So it's these young adult guys primarily
who want to be having sex but can't,
and feel like women are not giving them what they deserve or have been owed. Which is interesting because it'll get us into like the Me Too movement and all of that dynamic.
What's so I'm curious within that community, and I don't know, but do some maybe not feel like they're owed it, but are just really sad about it and not so angry, or is it all kind of like we are owed a girl?
Yeah, if you're a part of that subgroup, from my understanding, then it's more of an extremist perspective, and it's very interesting. The more I've read about it, the more I see some of it in some of the clients that I work with. One client in particular, we won't share any identifying information, but it's like, don't show me sympathy. As therapists, we're taught to kind of talk about feelings and compassion and kind of empathy. And anytime I say something positive to this client, I try not to use praise. I try to help them see the benefit. I say, hey, it sounds like you handled that well. And he's like, oh, I don't want to hear it. Or you're a pretty intelligent guy. He's like, no, that'll go to my head. Don't tell. And it's just a very interesting.
Wow,
I don't know if you see that with your.
It's so uncomfortable to hear.
Yeah, it's just there's nothing good about me. It's self-defeatist in some ways, and then it's also projection onto these. Yeah. To women in our society. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's a little scary.
Yeah, for sure.
But tell me how that plays into the Joker.
So the Joker, people were trying to make connections. I've done a little bit more reading, and experts have spoken up to say that this movie is not necessarily going to spark more violence, but in the media coverage age and the 24-hour news cycle, people are highlighting these things and making associations and connections that aren't there. And these individuals that are incels are more interested in these more alt-right movement individuals than they are in these movie characters. So they're not attaching to these movie characters. They're attaching more to individuals that are actually doing real-life crimes. So the Columbine shootings and those, they have followers. There are forums. I'm learning so much as I'm doing this research because it's really... It's scary. Back to the original word it really is scary. And I'm not a fear-based individual. You know, I hear a lot of things in my office every day, but some of this stuff I'm reading is just like these subcultures and these kids that like just stay in their room and they don't interact with people on a day-to-day basis.
And what I'm kind of hearing you say when they follow and are inspired by mass shooters is seeking vengeance and revenge and hurting others.
Exactly.
Ooh.
But some people are saying it's not the movies per se. It's not the characters in the movie. It's the real life individuals. Okay. So ironically, all the fear that was around, the potential shootings at a movie theater, experts were saying that it was very unlikely because these individuals want to carry out these crimes and want to kill a mass of people. So if there's awareness around it, they're not going to want to do it in the first place because they want to be successful.
Right.
And now there's this like subculture where it's like, or this not subculture, but this new goal where it's not just that I just want to have this mass shooting, but I actually want to survive at the end of it. So that's kind of this new nuanced goal they have is I want to kill a mass of people and be famous for it, but I don't want to be killed at the end of it or kill myself.
So I
want
to
to
reap
survive.
The reward.
Exactly. It's very scary. So.
Very scary.
But to get to the movie itself, I will say.
Oh my gosh! To ruin everybody's Friday morning, like lock yourself in your room with your family and hug everyone you know.
That's not necessarily what I'm saying.
We're here to spread love.
Depends on how you take it. Depends on how you take it. I guess it depends on how you interpret all that. Because to me, it's like, hey, there was no danger around watching the movie for the most part. Again, you can't say absolutes per se, but there wasn't as much danger as the media highlighted. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to see it that first day for sure because I was afraid that something could happen.
Well, and the reason I didn't want to see it was because kind of the early previewers who did watch it one of the words that stuck out to me was irresponsible. Like, this is socially irresponsible, the theme of the movie. And so I don't go to the movies much anyway. I have kids, and so I'm not about to spend money to go see a movie when I need to get a babysitter. But I certainly don't want to do anything that makes me more scared of our society or keeps me up at night fearing people or worried that this is really happening. Nor do I like the idea that this could be planting in people's heads. So to me, when I heard socially irresponsible, I think that maybe drew people towards it of like, wow, well, let's see what it does.
Yeah.
And instead I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to spend my time watching that. So what do you think?
See, that's interesting because it speaks to like the difference in our personalities. Because to me, I'm interested. I have this little existential philosophy interest myself.
Yeah.
So to me, I wanted to watch the movie, but I didn't want to put myself in danger. So I knew for sure I wasn't watching it on opening day, but I knew I was going to watch it.
Yeah.
But then when clients were bringing it up, I said I need to watch it because this is a part of the work that I do. I need to be able to you know, have these conversations. So it's very interesting. But so you've decided you're not going to watch it.
That's right.
Even at home, would you watch it?
I've got so many other movies and things I want to watch that I probably would not choose to watch it. I did watch the Saturday Night Live skit on Oscar the Grouch, the spinoff of it, and I thought that was awesome. So
I missed that one.
It was like the beginning story of Oscar the Grouch on Sesame Street, and it was dark and gritty. Story. It was hilarious. I highly recommend watching that.
Good. Well, we'll talk about the Joker more. I know the Shrink Tank podcast has done a podcast on it. So if you guys are interested in learning more about the Joker and a mental health perspective on it, some of our colleagues have really done a great job of discussing that more in detail.
Did you like it?
I liked it. The last thing I'll say about it is walking into it, I was excited and interested in like just kind of learning, kind of just going through it and experiencing it and being entertained. Within the first 20 minutes, I was feeling depressed. Because just like the sadness of the story and how this guy's just going through all this stuff. I don't want to give away any of the spoilers per se because some people may not have watched it. But it was kind of depressing throughout. And then there were some action moments here and there and some interesting things. But the end of it, I will say, definitely is interesting. There's been a lot of talk on media or just even in forums about like what did the ending really mean. So it's a very interesting ending. So it's worth the watch from my perspective. If you're not, anxiety provoked and kind of fear mongering impacts you and things of that sort, then it's a good movie to watch. But if you're triggered,
a little more tenderhearted, maybe not for you.
Probably not for you. So let's get to our second topic. You're more of the expert on this. I've done my research on it, but Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. So
tell us your perspective.
This has been just a fascinating topic for me, but I just finished up. Last week was the last series of a 6-week podcast called, I think, The Mysterious Mr. Epstein, or the Wonder. It was done by Wondery.
Okay.
The same producers who did other podcasts that I love, like Dr. Death, Dirty John. Just, I think, interesting true crime series.
Okay.
And so it was a 6-week kind of in-depth look at Jeffrey Epstein's history. Who he was, how he got his money, how he got plugged into the A-list world, and then truly the stories of the girls from early on who sought help, who went to the police, who weren't heard, and just the full picture of his life. It didn't go into how he died,
all the details, and whether
right.
or not it was there's a lot of controversy about whether it was a suicide or if it was a hit.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. It sounds like the information you got from that podcast is very similar to the information I got from Wikipedia.com. So it sounds like our sources are about. It was a full page Wikipedia, but they really did. They really highlighted everything I needed to know. It was to the point, and I appreciated it. It was. Here's who he is. He made a lot of money in finance. That was kind of his.
Yes, but it was shady, right? Like he hitched his wagon to people, and really in like Ponzi schemes, right? Yep. And other people went down for these, and somehow he got away with. He was never called out for this, which is just so interesting to me. How some people can snake their way through life for a long time getting away with really irresponsible.
So here's the question, because it's an interesting point, because I agree with you. There's some people that can snake their way. I feel like the most common denominator amongst those individuals is money, and money is power.
100%.
So do you
Yes.
think? Can you think of any other factors that contribute to individuals being able to snake their way through? Because money is, we agree, that's the greatest.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It's people who have power. So it's either you come from like a family that has a name that you want to be associated
Yep.
with, or you're right, you have power, you have money, or prestige. So, but
Yep.
the two are usually connected, right? So
Yeah.
if you have political power, if you have social influence, if you have status, you most likely have money, right? Like,
No, for sure.
so
Yeah.
you're right. Money kind of is that common denominator.
Money is power, as they say.
What's upsetting is how many times so many women reached out to police, the FBI got involved, and how they looked the other way.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this, but this came out recently, a video of an ABC anchor
Yes.
who talked about how she had all of this information almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
And ABC
3
kind of
years ago.
Oh, was it 3 years ago?
Not a decade.
Oh, sorry.
3 years ago.
Wikipedia, obviously. Get on it, dude. You're making me look bad on live TV here. 3 years ago. Anyway.
We need a horse.
Cut. Cut that out next time. ABC anchor basically stated that she had all this information and she was going to go live, and ABC cut her off. And then Fox News and other outlets that kind of opposed these outlets' general views are trying to use that as clickbait and are trying to use it as like,
Right.
oh, ABC is trying to hide this and why. And then they're talking about powerful people, Bill
Right.
Clinton and
Well, and the big one is the royals.
yep, Prince Andrew, is it?
Right. So they were kind of saying, she had said, ABC shot it down because they were trying to get interviews with Kate Middleton and other members of the family. And if they exposed this, it would be exposing Prince Andrew. And so they wanted to squash that so that they could maintain a good relationship, right? Which is sort of just brings up this point of like the integrity of journalism, right? Like we have a responsibility, they have a responsibility to share facts, not to withhold things so that they can make certain people happy.
Money is power.
Money is
But
power.
I guess the other famous phrase that I heard growing up is, yes, money is power, but it's also more money, more problems. And that's the interesting other piece of it is, these people that you see, how much of it is the fact that they have this stage
Right.
that leads to all these problems, and then it's going to connect. I see what you were saying earlier about the connection of the cancel culture. It's, one mess up and you're done. So we'll have to talk
Right.
about that a little later. But
Well, and so let's bring it to that. I know Bill Gates has been in the hot seat for accepting money, right? But this is what Jeffrey Epstein did, was he really wanted to seem like one of the biggest supporters of science and like really funding hardcore science and be taken very seriously. So he gave tons of money to people who needed money. And I think the hard thing is, yes, people took meetings with him. Did they know about who he was and what his sexual preferences were? I mean, when you hear in the podcast people describing walking into his home, apparently all of his decor was pornographic pictures of young women. So I think it'd be a little hard to go to a dinner at his house and not be like, why are there 14-year-olds rubbing your shoulders in the middle of dinner? But if you were just having a meeting, like if he's going to Harvard and trying to donate money, I don't know how much vetting there is in terms of like sexual preference.
yeah, my brain, again, as a therapist, is kind of like that dialectical approach, is not the extremes, but kind of seeing how both can coexist. And it's like, if I was there, this is I don't come from that level of wealth in conversations of billionaire. So are
And
the
yet
ways
he's
of life.
still really likable and awesome.
Exactly. But I don't want to be famous, so please don't make me famous, because I don't want more money, more problems.
Oh, he's not married, ladies. Maybe because he's not a billionaire.
Or maybe because I'm going to stop there. But yeah, that's exactly
Oh,
it.
our producer back here is.
What? Just so they know, what was the podcast you said that you were listening to again? Just one more time.
I believe it was called either The Mysterious Mr. Epstein or The Wonder.
Get the intern over there to look it up and post it in the comments. Our intern, aka director, he plays multiple roles.
And then we also have a question too.
Oh, we got a
From
question.
Tiffany Hall. She said, "Could you give your analysis of what is going on with him and these accused pedophiles? We've seen all this in the news already." So,
Our analysis with
yeah.
him and what's going on with him in a sense of what
why
exactly.
he how the pedophiliac brain why it works.
Got it. Do you have any insight on that?
I'm not a
Expert on pedophilia, no?
I'm not.
Not
Oh.
personally. Our director believes that you are. No. I think what's going on with him from a mental health perspective, I
Yeah.
think we can speak to that.
Yep.
I think the most glaring part for me is the suicide or death, let's just call it, right? Because we don't know. Some people are making that argument. Like, what's going on in the individual's brain that leads them to kind of result to those means, if that is the case. Let's say, hypothetically, he did commit suicide. What are your insights on what may lead someone to commit suicide? And especially given the Epstein case and scenario, what do you think, what factors may have contributed to that thought process, if any? I know that's a loaded question.
Right.
So
It totally is. A lot of speculation happening.
For sure.
But let's back it up just a little bit more. And really, when you think about Jeffrey Epstein, and when I hear about his desire to be just revered, him needing him so much on status, so much on power, that to me speaks volumes to why he preyed on young women, right? The ability to feel really powerful, godlike, in control, dominating. And then when you kind of, I guess there is something when you look at the fashion industry, youth, beauty, this really kind of virgin-esque quality of the innocence. I think that's something that he just wanted to feel like, almost like a god.
made
right?
him feel powerful. Yeah.
That's right.
You believe some narcissism there? Okay.
1,000%. There is also, it talks about, he talked to scientists about developing a compound in like New Mexico where he would impregnate like 20 women a year to spread his seed so that he could like give back to the population to make it better. Like, I really think that there is not only very narcissistic tendencies, but a real thought distortion going on.
Yeah.
And really a lack of value in other humans.
Interesting. Yeah. I think about the mood stuff too, and there's the sudden change. If I'm this powerful individual, and then all of a sudden I'm in jail and I'm going to be sentenced for potentially 40 plus years as a result of being caught and found out. Like that, to come from this pedestal and just be dropped down to reality, that can cause you to kind of question life, and is it worth living if I've gotten accustomed to being this powerful individual?
And it's still kind of a power mood. It's kind of like saying, screw you,
Exactly.
I'm not going to follow your laws. I'm above the law. I'll do me, right?
That's
I go out when I say go out. Very fascinating.
very fascinating.
And we have a whole podcast on this too.
Oh, we have a whole podcast,
Yeah, we got
shrinktank.com,
so-
right? Is that on shrinktank.com? Is that right?
Shrinktank.com and on our YouTube channel.
And on our
Oh.
YouTube
Linking
channel.
it in the
Yeah, we're
comments.
linking it in the comments right
Linked
now.
in the comments.
All right, people, look in the comments. All right, so let's transition now to cancel culture.
Okay, so tell us, do you want me to kind of give
describe
the
what
highlight?
it is.
So cancel culture, before we describe what it is, let's talk a little bit about the video that went viral recently with Obama. He was at, I think it was the Obama Foundation event. It was an event that he holds annually. And he was talking to all of these individuals and basically saying that cancel culture is not necessarily activism. And some people believe that those coincide, and that's where the cancel culture...
Stop right there. What is cancel culture?
Cancel culture, if I was to describe, I'm trying to have Wikipedia is not available on my right now. Cancel culture is basically where it's another synonym for that, or another word that's used is call out culture.
Right.
So
right.
it's basically when someone is doing something that is not right, or has done something that is not right, for lack of better terms. I say not right because it can be so broad. It can be as simple as said something that was racist to like did something that was abusive.
Right. Or I think it's become more extreme of you said something that I don't agree with or I don't like.
Exactly.
I think it started as like holding people accountable to what's even the right way of saying, like, of acting
morally or
right?
ethically sound.
That's right.
And I think that's the interesting part is like now you're starting to throw in values, beliefs, morals, ethics
Right.
into like judgment of other people. And in
Right.
our field, we're taught that you don't instill values and beliefs into other people.
Right.
You help them manage their own life and their own goals.
Right.
But
So this cancel culture is saying, like, if you do something that I don't agree with, you're canceled.
You're canceled. You're done.
You're dead to me.
Yeah. And it's more, I think initially it was just like a online kind of Twitter battle and like you're canceled, but then you're seeing the ramifications that are far reaching, more than just like people losing their job, which has been a part of the cancel culture piece.
Right.
People are getting called out and things are coming to light, and then they're losing their jobs or losing their financial
Right.
stability and things of that sort. or losing their status as a famous individual,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's more than that. You're seeing, like, I see the mental health lens of it.
Yes.
You're losing all this, and then people are like, they're outcast in our society.
Right. This is not just this definitely happens in the celebrity world, both political and celebrities, or business world, right? But we are seeing it play out in friend groups in high schools and colleges, where if you say something that is not the majority belief or somebody has issue with, they'll cancel you.
Yep.
And in this day and age of social media, teens spread the word, and they can literally cancel a human from the community. And so a kid might show up to school one day, and maybe they've gotten into a little tussle or said something that pissed somebody off the day before. They suddenly show up, nobody's talking to them, they are totally outcast, they are hated, and it's really life-changing.
Oh, it is. And I will add, this day and age, you talk about mental health and how there's stigma around mental health, but it's improving, right? There's less stigma.
Right.
However, what I'm seeing with the populations that I work with, the adolescents and young adults, is that they're attaching to these individuals that are famous, that are talking about. So you talk about the SoundCloud rappers, and they're talking about suicide and death, and some of it is good because you have like the Logics that talk about, here's a suicide hotline number.
Right.
But like now it's like it's harder for me as a therapist to decipher how much of this is true depression and suicidal ideation, and how much of this is like trendy. And that's tough to say as a mental health professional, but that is making my job a little bit more difficult to be able to decipher between those two.
Totally. And even think about when we talk about increased anxiety in teens, like what a stressful situation to walk into school, to college, and be terrified that you could have one thing that somebody disagrees with and you're going to be ousted.
Yep.
Right? Like,
and then what do we know about what do we know about that developmental stage? It's all about figuring out identity and how you fit in, how do you stand out, what are you good at, and if that's taken away from you, that is paramount to an individual's mental health, especially an adolescent.
Totally.
So before you get too far from the school portion, Michelle
Yes.
has a question saying,
Michelle!
how do you...
Michelle looks like it's one of Melissa's best friends.
So we have two things, so we'll just kind of lump them here so I don't interrupt you guys again. So Michelle said, how do you counsel a kid who's been canceled at school? What are the first steps they should take? And before you answer that, just for some more information, Tiffany Hall says, this happened to my 12-year-old daughter this week. A boy told her to go shoot herself over a disagreement on tape, and he got suspended. So, wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, how do you counsel a kid who's been canceled at school?
Gosh.
That's a tough one.
Tough
Yeah,
one.
where I try to go back to is kind of perspective taking. That's what I try to do is what's really important, because what feels important right now may not be important down the road.
That's true.
But again, you still need your support system. So it's kind of helping your kids find the individuals that they can count on.
So here's what's really important is we get really concerned about kids in isolation, right? Like when they are totally isolated, this is where bad things start to happen. They get into this negative thought pattern that is scary. We need to try to connect them to communities, even if it's outside of the culture they've been canceled from. So if they've been canceled at school, do they have a faith community? Do they have a camp community? Do they have a sports community? Do they have a job? Do they have cousins? Anyone who is a connection point for them, like they might need to go to school and be alone and be canceled, but they can be resilient in the fact that outside they still have people who they know care about them and they feel connected to and can offer that compassion and the encouragement to show up and face this.
And I will say, and I don't know if you would agree with this wholeheartedly, because I do agree with everything you're saying, the resilience piece, and that's why I try to teach in sessions with clients. It's like, we can't control the environment, but we can control how we engage with it.
What's going on here, guys?
I don't know.
We're losing strength. You're in a job that you hate and you're miserable. You continuing to try to figure it out, it may be better that you just go somewhere else. So I know this may sound extreme, and I'm not saying this is the advice that I'm giving for every situation, but if it is a true cancel culture scenario and your kid has been canceled at school, you may want to entertain switching schools because at some point resilience doesn't do it. Like you have to find
Okay.
environmental change. So
Can
you may
I
disagree.
challenge you on that a little though?
Go for it.
Like I get it, but I think there are probably
She got sidetracked by the director.
Sorry. I think there are probably several steps to try before you get there, right? Like I do think that in this kind of polarizing world, I hope that all parents will start to realize that we need to start to work on finding middle ground and forgiveness and tolerating people. So are there certain people that you can approach to try to work through the issue?
Yep.
Is there a way for redemption, for understanding? Like, I don't want one extreme version of being canceled to be the other extreme reaction of like, well, screw you then. You're dead to me too, right?
Yeah.
I think if they truly say are at a really small school and they really can't work through it, we don't want them to be there for 3 more years of being totally isolated.
And that's what I'm speaking to, is more the exception to the rule. I think, but I think I may be jaded a little bit because of some of the reading that I'm doing and how extreme and black and white these subcultures are, and it's almost like cool. But I will say, with all that being said, I am jaded to some extent. But I've also heard that cancel culture is being used as a joke too, like, oh, you're canceled, or. So
one person even saying, like, if you haven't been canceled, then you're canceled, right? Like, everybody's being canceled these days.
So but I think the biggest things to keep in mind is words matter, and I think that's one thing that we need to kind of make sure we're highlighting to our kids, that like it's not just the action, it's words matter, right?
Yeah.
So we need to practice empathy more and try to see things from other people's perspective, and that's the irony. Is like I listened to a podcast called Invisibilia. Invisibilia, you need to send me some money because I'm marketing for you guys. But Invisibilia talks about a lot of things from a psychology angle that are going on, and cancel culture was a part of it. And there was this girl that was a part of this subgroup of individuals that go to concerts, and she was a performer, and she did something that the group saw as irresponsible and just decided to cancel her.
Right.
And it changed her entire life experience. She could no longer go to concerts. And it was like death threats. And it's like, I think we're desensitized to some extent to some of these things because, we can bring this back to the Joker and things. We just see these things and talk about these things, and they're just normalized. That we forget that, like, threatening suicide is a real thing.
Right.
Or threatening harm upon somebody is a real thing.
Very much so. I also, like, what bothers me the most about cancel culture is that I don't want our society to become intolerant, right? Like, we need to learn how to tolerate other people's opinions. And this is where kind of dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT, comes in. Like, people are not either all good or all bad, right? Like, I have to tolerate the fact that many people in my family voted differently than I did in the last election. I can't cancel them, nor do I want to, right? Like, I need to make space. I need to make space for the fact that there can be differences of opinion, and we can still love each other and be good to 100%. Each other and kind to each other.
I think that's Barack Obama's point too, is to some extent, like, without having the conversations, how are you going to be a change agent?
Oh my gosh,
if you're not talking to the individual that has a differing view than you and you just cancel them, where's the potential for growth and progress? Where's
zero?
So
yes.
So speaking of change agents and going back to the school scenario, just to make it a little bit more vague. So in the previous situation, the daughter actually spoke to the school counselor, and the school counselor told the principal. So in this scenario, I guess the bigger question is that like a trustful relationship between that individual and the counselor, if the counselor told the principal?
I think from a confidentiality perspective, we know that very well. It's like whenever there's a safety concern, right, suicidality, homicidality, those things, we need to get ahead of it. And confidentiality, that's the limit to confidentiality, or one of the limits.
What's also interesting, though, is like, so we have confidentiality because we're in private practice, and we sign a waiver saying, here is what confidentiality means and what it doesn't mean, and here's when we break it. Now, in a school, I'm not sure what those privacy confidential rights are, because they're it's different.
It's within an organization, a public entity rather than a private. So what are you signing up for? And that may be something to look into.
That's right.
With the school is what is it exactly? So
and I guess if there's concerns, if they did the right thing, having like engaging in conversation of like, help me understand why this was the action. And I think that's the whole thing about cancel culture is cancel culture tends to end conversations and increase hate. And instead, we all need to like be moving towards each other to have better understanding. And if we didn't like what somebody did, how do we understand that or help them understand why we didn't like it, and then tolerate that difference? Our world would be like, what I don't want is a world full of hate, or this idea that there is a right or wrong way to be, right? Like, this is kind of what our country was founded on, of like being able to have different beliefs and there's not a right or wrong, right? Like this
sure.
question of morality or there's not only one way.
For sure. So I have a burning question for you. You kind of spoke to it in the beginning. Can you help us see how all these topics that we talked about are tied in?
Oh, 100% is that, I mean, it's all about kind of us being good to other people, right? And having trusting communities where we can be good to each other and not separate based on power or hate or I'm right, I'm wrong. Like we don't, that sounds like a cold, brutal world to live in to me.
I will say that just hearing you talk so passionately about just, being accepting, and it warms my heart. I feel like I need this every morning before I go off into my day, and it's just like, accept people, love people. Like it feels like a common goal. So I appreciate your energy, Melissa. I'm feeling it. I feel like I'm ready to take on the day.
Okay, so we're
she's about to make her call to action right now.
I've got a paper here telling me that you can ask questions on the live stream.
They've already done that. You missed that one.
We're good. Yeah, we're good. I
There
didn't
you
think
go.
of those, by the way, Melissa.
I think the outro says, "Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode."
Don't forget, we've got lots of good stuff on Psych Bites, Psych Cinema,
And the others. So I'm going to read the last part. It says, "I'm Melissa Miller. You're Terex Lucy.
I'm Terex Lucy.
Thanks for watching. And
Thanks.
see you next time."
Be good to each other.